On today's boss list, we'll be taking down Fuban. Now this is one of the funner boss fights because you'll be joined by a special guest halfway through the fight. But before we get some help, we need to get through the first phase of the fight. And to do that, we're going to be bringing in the following spells. A Pluck of Mini, Immobilize, and Jugzone for our transformation spell. Now for this fight, you may not need to bring in a spirit spell, but if you want to, I would bring in Wandering White. He does a ton of damage and has a chance of staggering your opponent. If you have any extra points, put them on attack and crit. And as far as I know, this boss doesn't do any elemental damage, so you don't have to worry about putting any points into resistances. As you're approaching the boss, he's going to tunnel into the ground. Obviously, you can't do any damage at this point, so it's time to run. But you need to keep your eyes on where he's at underneath the ground. Once the sand tunnel eventually catches up to you, he's going to pop up in the air and then come back down. Now this is an extremely delayed attack and you need to be patient. One thing to look at when he's coming down is his arm. Once his arm flips over and the camera speeds up, dodge. If you're lucky enough to avoid that damage, it'll leave him in a vulnerable state where you can get some damage in. And don't forget about your minions. This is a good time to cast a Pluck of Mini. They can start getting in some damage while he's trying to recover. Now let's talk about your positioning. You should have your character on his hands, and that's where you should be doing damage. Focus more so on his wrist rather than the big protruding finger that's coming from the top of his hand. Just watch out for when he tries to do a sweep attack. When he raises up his arm, dodge towards his legs. You want to try to stay underneath of him to make him miss with that attack. He has another close range attack that he does with his horn. He'll lift up briefly and then he'll smash his horn back into the ground and then swipe from side to side. When you see him do this, don't be in front of him. Try to be on his side or underneath of him. This attack hits everything in front of that horn. When he finishes the combo, go ahead and get some damage in. You can keep up a good pace with your attacks because Fuban likes to take a lot of breaks after his own attacks. And if you stay underneath Fuban, the majority of his attacks will miss. Focus on whatever hand he's not lifting up. If he lifts up his right hand, go to his left hand. If he lifts up his left hand, make sure you dodge and then go to his right hand. Now he does have one attack where you might not want to be underneath of him. He'll take one step back and then lift up his opposite hand and smash it back into the ground for an area attack. You can try to dodge this at the point of impact, or you can just try to get out of the area completely. And this attack hits twice. The first one is a big, large area damage, and the second one is a slight stomp, so you may need to dodge twice. With this boss, you can keep up a constant attack. If you need to use some extra spells, go ahead and cast Immobilize, but save Jugzone for later. For now, just try to get his health down so you can move into the second phase. Once you do enough damage, he will become upset, and when he does, he'll burrow into the ground, and then you'll have to deal with him there. Once he does go underneath the ground, you need to start running around and look for signs of him approaching. If you see sand dust kicking up and coming towards you, that means he's approaching. And rocks, they're not going to save you. There'll be a flash of light right before he hits the first time. He'll follow this up a second time, but he'll burst out the ground more fully. So try to keep moving as much as you can. This will help you see when he's coming and give you enough time to heal, or if you really need to, you can use Cloud Step to get away if you really think you're in danger. Now he will follow you around a bit while he's underground, and it's not just his ground attacks that he can do. He can do his original attack that he did in the beginning of the fight and jump up outside of the ground and come back down on top of it. And remember that this attack is delayed. Use the camera speed and some point of his body, either his arm or something else, to time your dodge. And unlike in the beginning of the fight when he did this attack, he's not going to stay above ground. He's going to burrow back down and then start the chase again. At this point, it's your job to just keep on running and dodging those attacks. He'll do this maybe one or two more times, and eventually it'll go to a cutscene. Then the second phase of the fight is going to start. The yellow wind sage is going to jump down and help us finish this fight. Now this works out perfectly. While Fuban is focusing his attacks on the sage, you can move into position and then get in close and cast Immobilize. Then both of you can get uninterrupted damage in. Just watch out for his head smashes while you're close. He likes to swing around that horn. If you do find yourself taking some damage, remember, you have a friend in the fight. Just back up, heal, and let him do all the work. A lot of his attacks may stun the boss or even flip them over. Take your time when you're going in to do an attack, because if Fuban starts rolling around, he still can't do damage. Just wait for him to stop moving completely, then go in and get pissed. And don't forget about Jugzone. When the sage stuns him, you can transform into Jugzone and start getting in those light attacks. And now that you have the sage helping you out, try not to get too comfortable. Fuban still does like to smash the ground a lot, so just dodge around him and look out for his horn. The majority of your opportunities to attack during the second phase is when the Sage stuns this boss. Just wait for him to flip him over and then go in and do some damage. That's the best way to play it safe if you really need to. You can be aggressive with this boss, keep an eye on your health, focus on his hands, and take this one down. Let me know down in the comments if you used any spells at all during this fight. Hope you enjoyed this one and learned something new. I'll catch you in the next one.